Hey guys, Danny Johnson here, and today we're going to be replacing all three of our accessory drive belts on our 2015 Yukon. This should be the same process for the Suburban, the Sierra, the Silverado, the Escalade. And so this is on the 6.2 liter V8. So these are the part numbers that I used. And the 5.3 may be similar, but you'll want to check that. Check the video description. I'll put some part numbers in there if I can find them. So this one does come with a guide tool, but I won't be using it, and you might not have it anyway. So I'll show you a different method where you don't need any special tools. So first we're going to take off these vacuum hoses by pushing on the button and sliding it off. There's one on each side, so just push down on that button and you just kind of wiggle it off and it pops off. Then we're going to take a common screwdriver or flathead screwdriver, and we're going to take off the clamp that's here right on the throttle body. And then there's also one over here by the airbox. And so we're just going to loosen both of these clamps. We don't have to take them off all the way. And now you can just pop these off and move this piece out of the way. And so here's our drive belts here. And so the first one, we're going to take a 1/2-inch breaker bar, put it into the tensioner, and when you push down on it, it releases the tension on the belt and we can take it off. So we're going to go ahead and remove that. Now we're going to spin some of these pulleys as well, just to make sure they're not making any strange noises or grinding for the water pump, the tensioner there, and the alternator. And so now we're going to take off our AC belt. Now the manual says to cut it, but we're going to use a different method in case you want to reuse it. So first we want to chalk the wheels to make sure that the vehicle doesn't roll, make sure this is on good pavement. And now we're going to go into the vehicle, don't touch the brake, and then hold the start button down. And after about 5 to 10 seconds, it will put the car into accessory mode without the car running. And make sure that the brake is on, and make sure that that's good and locked. Again, we don't want anything to roll. And so now we're going to take the car and put it into neutral. So just pull it down until it's in neutral and make sure that it's not going to roll away on you. Make sure you're on flat level ground and everything. And so now what we're going to do is come in with a 24 millimeter socket, and we're going to go onto the crankshaft pulley, which is the big one here in the middle. So now with the car neutral, and we'll be able to turn this pulley, and you can go pretty much either direction, but we're going to come in with a glove or a really sturdy rag, and we're going to put it around the belt, and what we're going to do is pull towards us tightly, and at the same time we're going to rotate the crankshaft. So we're going to go ahead and move it, and what we're doing is walking the belt off of the pulley. So once I got to about this level, what I would also do is grab a second glove and kind of start in again to help walk it off, so it's being walked off in two places. And so as you can see, it's starting to come off of that pulley, and they're pretty tight. They're stretch belts. There's no tensioner. They're intended to be cut, but it's always good to have a spare. So anyway, I'm coming in with a second glove here and doing the same thing. I'm going to pull this glove towards me to help that belt walk off of the pulley, and then I'm putting the 24 millimeter on the crankshaft and continuing to turn it. So as you do this, you will eventually pull that belt right off of the pulley there. As you can see, it's coming off here, and it might take a few goes. Just be careful not to jam too much stuff in it. You don't want to bend anything, but just as you're pulling it off here, it eventually will start to walk off, and you'll be able to get that belt off of the air conditioning pulley. So here it comes. So that one's out of the way. Now we're going to go after our vacuum pump one. It's the smaller one, and I took a zip tie on this one and made a loop out of 2 zip ties, just put them together because it was so thin. That seemed to work out pretty well. Even a piece of wire worked pretty well for me. And so I was basically just doing the same thing, rotate the crankshaft and pull on that to get that off. And so here comes the other one, and those are both out of the way. Okay, so now we're bringing in our new vacuum pump one, and we're going to put it on the crankshaft, and then we're going to come over here on the pulley side, and what we're going to do is take zip ties, and we're going to zip tie this one tight just on the side there. You want to be really careful because these belts tend to flip, and so you can do like a figure 8 on that, as you can see, and then they end up upside down halfway through. So just watch the belt as you're putting it on and make sure that it's going on straight. You can use multiple zip ties and just kind of guide it with your hand, but obviously don't get your fingers or anything caught on here. As I started to turn it, I put on a second zip tie, and that really helped hold it in place. afterwards. You're able just to cut these off as soon as that belt is on. And so now we're going to move on to the air conditioning one. And so we're going to put it on the air conditioning pulley first, and then we're going to go over towards the crankshaft like this and start to loop it on here. Now the crankshaft has holes in it, so what we did is just ran the zip ties through the crankshaft and over the top. And I did 2 or 3 of these zip ties to get this on here, but as you can see there's holes in the pulley, so you can go through all the way around it. And now you just do the same thing, just rotate this. And this one also can be pretty stubborn and want to walk off of the air conditioning pulley as you're doing this. So as you're rotating it, just watch that it's not coming off at the AC compressor pulley. You can see right now it's starting to come off a little bit. So you kind of have to guide it. See how it's come off? So round 2 here, you just want to guide it, and down here where it would start to come off, that's where it's helpful to put the end of a breaker bar or something down there to kind of keep tension on it to keep it guided straight. So I pushed directly on the belt as I rotated it and was able to get this to come on. So,
so I went
now it's on the accessory pulley, and it looks good. It hasn't flipped or anything on us, so we're going to go ahead and cut our 3 zip ties that we used. And so make sure you get those out of the way. Next, we're going to put our main drive belt back on, and so the way that this loops on, I like to start over on the right hand side on the water pump, put the other left hand side onto the alternator, and then as you come in, you're going to loop that belt behind the tensioner to get it back onto the tensioner. So you kind of twist the belt sideways, and there's enough room to get it to go in there like that and behind the tensioner. Then we're going to pull it down around the crankshaft. So now we're going to come in with our 1/2 inch breaker bar, and we're going to put it on the tensioner. And so as we push down on the tensioner, that gives us more slack, and we just put it right over the alternator pulley here. So when it's all done here, this is what the routing should look like. We have the water pump going over the alternator, under the tensioner, and around the crankshaft. Now we can go and reconnect our vacuum lines, put our air box back in place. So just make sure as you do this that everything is good, especially where the box goes onto the throttle body. You want to make sure that it's seating all the way around the throttle body and got on there flat. And so we're just pushing both of these lines back on, tightening it down here, and again on the throttle body, make sure it goes all the way around it. Okay, now we can put the vehicle back into park. And hopefully your battery hasn't died during this process. We'll remove our wheel chock, and that's it. So here's the part numbers that I used. And so if you enjoyed this video, please check the video description. I have a playlist on this Yukon with all the other things that I've done. And so if you're new to the channel, also feel free to subscribe. Thanks, guys.